I never imagined my life would change forever due to the flu. That day, I left work early, feeling weak and drained, just wanting to get home and unwind. But when I arrived home, what I discovered shattered my world in an instant. A truck belonging to a man I didn't recognize was parked outside, and muffled sounds drifted from our bedroom. The feeling in my stomach was more than just illness. As I peered through the slightly ajar door, I witnessed my wife's betrayal unfold right before my eyes. In that moment, everything shifted. It was not merely the end of my marriage. It was the start of something entirely new, a life rising from the ashes of infidelity. Before I delve into my tale, if you wish to avoid having your life turn upside down like mine, subscribe to my channel to learn valuable lessons from real stories we share daily, just like mine. Also, share your thoughts on the shocking truths I faced in the comments, and please support me by liking my video. Now that you've subscribed, let's explore my story. That Thursday morning at the office, the flu hit me hard, and by noon, my boss sent me home to prevent spreading it throughout the workplace. All I could think about was my wife, Beth. I imagined her taking care of me, making some chicken soup, and nursing me back to health. However, as I approached our home, I noticed an unfamiliar truck parked in front. Despite my illness-ridden state, I didn't dwell on it and parked on the street before entering the house, expecting Beth to look after me. The house was eerily silent, and the stillness unsettled me. I called out for Beth, but there was no response. As I headed toward our bedroom, sounds of two people intertwined started to reach my ears. My heart raced. A voice inside warned me to stop, that seeing what was happening would change my life forever. Yet I pressed on. With each step, my suspicion deepened. I reached the door and peeked through the small gap. I saw Beth in bed with another man, and in that instant, everything became painfully clear. I absorbed the horror of that moment, emotions swirling within me like a storm. As I watched them, Beth giving herself to that man, it shattered my perception of reality. "Oh God, give it to me!" she screamed, her voice reverberating through the room, and something within me broke. I thought, how could I have been so blind? How had I not seen this coming? As Beth's body tensed amidst the man's incoherent grunts, I wanted to burst into the room. My heart raced, my hands trembled, but my legs felt cemented in place. Why was I just standing there, watching? A chilling realization settled within me. My feeling wasn't merely betrayal, but the emergence of newfound freedom. I opened the door slightly more and snapped a few clear photos with my phone. Beth's lustful expression, the way the man held her. "You'll never forget this," I whispered to myself, pocketing the photos. I wanted to confront them and demand answers, but instead, I quietly turned around and left the house without uttering a word. As I passed through the garage, I grabbed a screwdriver and punctured the tires of the man's truck. Perhaps it was childish, but in that moment, it was the only thing I felt I could do. I got into my car and drove away. Tears streamed down my cheeks uncontrollably as I hit the road. My life had transformed, and I was lost, unsure where I was headed. I drove for hours, consumed by thoughts of that moment. Beth and the man. How long had this affair been going on? Who was he? None of these questions mattered anymore. What truly counted was that 24 years of marriage had crumbled in an instant. I stopped by a clinic to pick up some flu medication, then checked into a motel on the other side of town. I couldn't return to that house, at least not that night. The first night spent in that motel felt like a waking nightmare. The weight of both my illness and the betrayal overwhelmed me. Beth had called me numerous times, but I didn't answer a single one. What could she possibly say? An apology wouldn't mean anything. Nothing could fix this. The next morning, I called work to inform them I wouldn't be in for a few days. I needed time to pause and consider my situation. This marriage couldn't continue like this. Simply leaving Beth wasn't enough. I needed a plan. That day, I contacted a lawyer, withdrew my money from the bank, and began taking the initial steps to separate my life from Beth. Stop! If you love your parents, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like the video or subscribe to the channel, it means you don't love them. If you don't love them, then write hate in the comments. Continue. I wasn't just ending my marriage. I was reclaiming control of my life. When I returned home, I found Beth in the kitchen, her eyes swollen and her face pale. "Peter, we need to talk. Please, give me a chance," she said, her voice quivering. I looked at her and replied with a voice as cold as ice. "You have nothing left to forgive me for, Beth. It's all over. I saw you. I witnessed you in that man's arms. In that moment, I understood we would never be the same again." Beth began to cry. "But I love you. He meant nothing. It was just a mistake," she pleaded. "A mistake," I said, barely able to contain my rage. "The moment you let that man into our bedroom, you destroyed any love you had for me. This isn't just a mistake. This is the end of our life together." Beth, sobbing uncontrollably, reached out her hands. "Please don't leave. We can start over. I love you. I don't know what happened. I was just looking for some excitement. I still need you," she said. I gently pushed her hands away and looked at her one last time. "I don't need you, Beth. Not anymore. There will be someone in my life who will never betray me." I gazed at the woman I once loved more than anything, and felt nothing. "I'm packing my things," I said coldly. "Packing? Why?" she asked, panic rising in her eyes. "Can't we talk?" "I'm sorry, Peter. I made a mistake. Please, we can fix this," she cried, tears streaming down her face. I shook my head, my voice remaining calm but firm. "Beth, there's nothing to fix. The moment you brought that man into our home, you made a choice. Now, I'm making mine." Beth collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "It was just sex, Peter. It meant nothing. I love you. I don't want him. I want you," she screamed. I looked at her in silence. Her words felt hollow. "You call this love? You cheated on me, Beth. You betrayed us, you betrayed me. It's clear you don't want me." Beth fell onto the bed, her sobs echoing through the room. I looked at her, feeling a mix of pity, disgust, and emptiness. The woman I once cherished now meant nothing to me. In that moment, I realized love had vanished. It was time to move on. The following weeks were spent reshaping my life. I moved into a small motel, started divorce proceedings with my lawyer, and quit my job. For the first time in years, I had no responsibilities, no job, no marriage, no home. I was free and could go wherever I wanted. And that's precisely what I did. The most unexpected surprise of my life arrived when I met a woman named Moore McDermott. Tall, with fiery red hair and eyes that reflected both pain and joy, I met her through mutual friends. From the moment we met, there was an immediate connection. Like me, she had endured the pain of betrayal, but together, we found the peace we were both seeking. The time I spent with Maureen gave me the strength to love again. With each passing day, I grew closer to her and eventually realized that this was no coincidence. We both deserved a second chance. Beth's betrayal wasn't an end for me. In fact, it ushered in a new life. It set me free, providing the courage to leave behind a life I had felt trapped in for years. In a strange way, I felt grateful to her. Standing on the mountaintop, looking out at my new life with Moore by my side, I realized that sometimes, life guides us to the right places after the worst moments. At the end of those difficult times, life can bring about significant changes at the most unexpected times. What was once a betrayal that tore my world apart has now given me a new beginning. A new love, a new life, and a freedom I never knew I had. It was all thanks to a broken heart that led me back to myself.